In this WrestleTalk news, Vince McMahon's plans to sell WWE could be blocked as he sued once again. A recent departure from WWE has been described as the most shocking in recent company history. The wrestling world pays tribute to Jay Briscoe and more. Subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
It's been a roller coaster few weeks of wrestling news, hasn't it? Vince McMahon retired from the world of wrestling and WWE itself in June last year following several accusations and investigations of sexual misconduct. However, in December, it was reported by the Wall Street Journal that McMahon felt he was given bad advice to step down, feeling that the news would have blown over had he stayed in power. Ironically, that was in an article where more accusations of sexual assault had been claimed against him. He sent a letter to the WWE Board of Directors to get a seat back at the table, which was resoundingly met with no thanks. As they wrote in their reply email, this decision was based on a variety of factors, including non-public information the board has become aware of and the risks to the company and its shareholders of placing a greater spotlight on these issues. So Vince did the most Vince thing he could and got rid of the board that opposed him, instead replacing them with glad-handed, nonsensical douchebag yes-men like George Barrios and Michelle Wilson, and used the very smart business Trojan horse move of smuggling his return to the company under the umbrella of, I want to sell the company, and you can't sell the company without me. He also changed WWE's bylaws to allow him to have final say on all sale or media rights deals. Of course, this news didn't go down well with fans of the product, but seemingly those on the board either. 3 members of the board were replaced so that Wilson, McMahon, and Barrios could get their seats back, and several others quit once the news became official, including Manjeet Singh, who was, perhaps just coincidentally, heading up the board's investigation into McMahon over his use of company money to cover up alleged affairs. Vince's daughter, Stephanie McMahon, just a few days after holding a talent meeting where she said it would be business as usual, resigned from her position as co-CEO. And as if that wasn't enough, a new SEC filing from January 17th stated that, as of January 16th, Vince McMahon no longer needs stockholders' approval of his actions. A decision that was executed and delivered with written consent by, you guessed it, Vince McMahon himself, which might have been spurred on by a lawsuit that was handed to him last week by the stockholders. McMahon was hit with a class action lawsuit by Scott Fellows along with thousands of WWE stockholders, which claimed McMahon violated Delaware law by taking control over any major WWE corporate decision and adding his cronies to the board.
Hi, I'm in Delaware.
And it's only getting worse for Vinnie Mac as he was hit with a second lawsuit since his return to the company. Sportico revealed yesterday that the Detroit Police and Fire Retirement System petitioned the Delaware court to have their own class action lawsuit, similar to the one filed by Mr. Fellows.
Hi, I'm in Delaware.
This suit claims McMahon tried to impose his personal will on WWE and its board by purporting to adopt a package of invalid and inequitable bylaw amendments that would hamstring the board from making critical business decisions. The suit claims that McMahon's moves violate Section 141 of the Delaware General Corporation Law and the company charter. This, however, isn't just a lawsuit to cry afoul of the bad man returning unfairly. This lawsuit would be seeking a declaration that would effectively block McMahon from regaining control of WWE's board of directors and prevent him from expediting a sale, according to Sportico. They add the 2 complaints could complicate any sale and require contractual assurances that may alter the sale price. This could be potentially a huge chapter in the ongoing sale of WWE, whose suitors include Disney, NBC, Universal, Endeavor, Saudi Arabia, and even AEW owner Tony Khan. And now Khan himself has spoken publicly about his interest in buying WWE. In what was a rather trolling answer to the question, Tony Khan was asked about WWE Sale on the Maggie and Perloff show, where he said that AEW was his main focus, but he was certainly intrigued by the idea of buying WWE and being part of the process. Now, see if you can spot the moment where he goes into promoter mode. It's almost imperceptible. He said, I am interested in the news and there is potentially a sale process, and certainly I think we've shown where there are acquisitions and transactions we're capable of making the big make purchases. AEW is my main focus, but certainly when the news is out there, it's very interesting. So stay tuned to AEW Dynamite and stay tuned to AEW Rampage. You never know when I'm going to address something. Tony Khan is clearly learning lots of lessons from Jeff Jarrett. But buried within this news of Vince McMahon being sued twice in 2 weeks was the announcement made yesterday that longtime employee and Vice President of Communications Adam Hopkins has left the company after 25 years. Fightful broke the story initially, then added that Hopkins was let go by WWE on January 13th. Several members of the wrestling media landscape took to Twitter to talk about how sad this news was. Sean Ross Sapp tweeted, "There is a lot that Adam Hopkins is responsible for that you haven't seen him credited for. He was very good at his job, and it's hard to believe he won't be in high demand. A huge thank you for all the interviews, junkets, and events he helped arrange." Denise Salcedo tweeted, "I've known Adam Hopkins for years now, and he is truly one of the best PR people out there. He did a phenomenal job and treated all members of the media with respect." While David Bixenspan added, "In the past, I've occasionally tweeted about my negative experiences with various WWE public relations staff members. Adam Hopkins, however, was the exception. Genuinely good guy who never let his soul get sucked out of him." Speaking of the firing, Mike Johnson, a PW insider, wrote that the news shocked just about everyone you could imagine, as the general consensus has been WTF among talent and other staffers. He also added, "We are told that Hopkins was not the only recent exit from the company's PR side, but certainly his exit would be amongst the most shocking in recent company history, with one person describing it as the equivalent of Howard Finkel exiting." Speaking of PW Insider, and they are also reporting it will be an all-hands-on-deck kind of weekend when it comes to next Saturday's Royal Rumble. Johnson writes that even if talent are not scheduled to be on the event, they will still be traveling to San Antonio for the show, with even discussions of WWE's NIL athletes being brought in. So it looks like Ollie Davis and myself's prediction that there will be lots of people enjoying nice catering wasn't that far off at all. And according to Fightful Select, while we may not have the surprise of Cody Rhodes as he was officially announced for the Rumble on Raw, there could be another return from injury surprise waiting for us. Sean Ross Sapp is reporting that WWE are hoping Logan Paul can appear at the Royal Rumble next week. He writes, "We haven't heard any solid details on the plan, but as of last week, WWE was hoping to have him train for an upcoming match. We can confirm they've at least inquired about it." Paul was injured during his WWE Universal Championship match against Roman Reigns at last November's Crown Jewel, where he said that he tore several ligaments and muscles in his knee. Though that was figured to be Logan Paul exaggerating the injuries, as it was too soon after the match for that diagnosis, and his brother Jake Paul has since downplayed the injuries in other interviews. Logan Paul was also involved recently in a crypto and NFT scam, which he wrote that he would be taking accountability, apologizing, and coming forward with a plan in the near future. According to Fightful Select, this news will not affect his push in WWE or any creative plans for him. We must, however, conclude this episode of the WrestleTalk News with the tragic passing of Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion Jay Briscoe. ROH owner Tony Khan broke the news via Twitter, noting that Jay was a star in Ring of Honor from the first show until his final one last year. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer later noted that Jay Briscoe passed away in a car accident where one other person also died. His daughter remains in critical condition as of the time of this recording. Jay Briscoe was 38 years old. Sean Ross Sapp noted on Twitter that NXT had a segment planned for last night's show, where the New Day were to hold a funeral for Pretty Deadly's title shot. However, once the news came out about Jay Briscoe's passing, the segment was cancelled by New Day and Shawn Michaels, instead having lead commentator Vic Joseph give out a tribute to Jay Briscoe on the show. Jay Briscoe recently won the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships from FTR in the final of their excellent trilogy of matches at Final Battle 2022, which was awarded 5.5 stars by Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. The wrestling world has been sharing their tributes to Jay since the news broke. Adam Cole tweeted, "I don't know what my life would be like without Jay Briscoe in it, and I don't want to know. You believed in me, you helped me, you treated me like family. There will be another like you. I'm so grateful to have known a man like you." Triple H called him an incredible performer who created a deep connection with wrestling fans across the globe. Sami Zayn tweeted, "I don't have the words right now to properly convey my sorrow. I love Jay and Mark Briscoe, always have. I wouldn't be here without them. I'm very lucky to have shared the ring and shared so many laughs with Jay Briscoe, and I'm so sad to know neither will happen again. Shane Taylor also shared his memories of working against Jay Briscoe in Ring of Honor, which was echoed by Kyle O'Reilly, who tweeted, "Jay Briscoe was the real deal. I was always amazed how someone could be so intimidating one moment, then so warm and affable the next. He gave so much to the business and to his family, and I'm forever grateful for having known him." WWE Tag Team Champions The Usos tweeted their condolences to the family, while Christopher Daniels noted Jay Briscoe was one of the toughest men I've ever had the privilege of sharing a ring with, as well as being a tremendous brother, father, and man. I'm so happy to have had the opportunity to know him and wrestle him as often as I did. Seth Rollins, who wrestled in Ring of Honor as Tyler Black, posted several tweets saying, "Being in the ring with Jay Briscoe got me my first ROH contract. He and Mark being so selfless helped Jimmy and I find our footing as Age of the Fall. Without him, I don't know if Tyler Black could ever have been Seth Rollins. After I signed with WWE, Jay would come to the Salisbury house shows to drink beer and hoot and holler. He loved the business and he was a great human and friend. Bigger than that, he was an absolutely adoring father and husband. Jay was one of those people who was always legitimately happy to see you. He had a twinkle in his eye and a hug waiting for me no matter how long we went without seeing each other. I'm crushed knowing that warmth is gone. My thoughts are with his family and friends. He was special." We here at WrestleTalk would like to send our condolences to the family and friends of Jay Briscoe, and we'll leave you today with this clip to remember him by, helping his daughter practice her cheer routine during the pandemic.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, 7 and 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2,